Okay, let's throw this on up here and let's talk a little Notre Dame run defense versus Stanford run offense. And you're going to see a theme as we move forward. As Notre Dame's numbers get smaller in a good way, Stanford's numbers are not good. You're going to see a lot of triple digits. It's just not very pretty. Notre Dame's run defense has just gotten better and better and better as the season has worn on. They had the issues with the three front and all of those fun things and all the complaints that they were having. They ran some three front, by the way, against Georgia Tech, but they brought 4 and 5 guys out of that three front, and they were living in the backfield of Georgia Tech. So I think it's a combination of Notre Dame getting better at what Marcus Freeman wants to do. And it was obviously also a combination of the fact that Georgia Tech wasn't very good. Yeah. But I think Notre Dame is getting better at the scheme that Marcus Freeman wants to employ. You got to remember that was such an early on situation. They hardly ever went three front in the past under Clark Lee.
Right.
And so it was new. And they weren't playing it very well. And I think they're starting to acclimate themselves to that a little bit more as we move forward.
Hey, Vince, are you sure you got these right? I know it's Stanford, but it really looks like the test scores plus extra credit for the Stanford players. They're really smart, right?
They are smart. That's what I hear.
Maybe that's like 100 and they got 26 for extra credit. Maybe that's it. Like maybe we mix the numbers up. No, it just looks really bad. And I watched the Cal game and they got 2 turnovers from Cal in the first 3 offensive plays and they weren't able to put up any points.
They went for it on 4th down on 4th and goal twice. I think in the first 2 possessions, and they didn't get it.
They got stuffed. Yeah. And it's just like you knew what David Shaw and his team, you knew what they were going to hang their hat on. And there's no coat rack, there's no hat rack, there's nothing to hang anything on now in this program. And it's just kind of like, let's just throw it up in the air to our receivers and hope they make a play. Let's run a trick play. It's just really bad. And when you see numbers like this, you see an offense that has no anchor, has nothing they can depend on, nothing they can go to when times get tough. And this right here was the rock of this program for years.
All the way back to Jim Harbaugh, right? I mean,
yes,
that was when they were bringing, tackles into the backfield and, that they could run the ball against anybody. And that carried over into, after Jim Harbaugh left, it carried over for quite some time. And not just his players, right? I mean, it carried over much longer than him being gone.
Yeah.
And then, making the case that, it was Harbaugh's players, et cetera, et cetera. They've always been able to run the ball.
Yeah.
Not this year.
And that's strange because I think Austin Jones is a really good back. I don't think they had the depth at running back that they normally had. They used to be able to go 2-3 deep and really pound you. The offensive line is definitely not getting the same push, and they're not as athletic. They're basically road graders. Their tackles, we can talk about that when we get to the passing game because their tackles are just not good.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that doesn't bode well with the way you just described this front seven is playing, getting used to Marcus Freeman's defense and his scheme. So I don't know. I don't even know if Notre Dame has to put an 8th man in the box against this run. When they go to the jumbo set, I'm sure a safety will come down into the box because of the formation. But even when they go jumbo, you see by the numbers, they're not effective.
Right.
They're not effective.
Yep.
So you'll probably see them go to a lot of 3-4 wide receiver sets more than you're used to when you watch a Stanford game. And that's really strange. When I was watching the Cal game, I'm like, this is strange. I'm just used to Stanford lining up with a fullback, 4 or 5 plays in a row and gashing teams. And I felt like somebody has stolen players and actually put them in Stanford uniforms. Like, there's no way this can be the players that we have normally seen developed under David Shaw and his staff. But yards per attempt at 3.3, that's blasphemous if you're going back looking at what Stanford has been as a program.
Well, and they don't even average 100 yards a game. I mean, frankly, they're far off from it. Average per game starts with an 8. Like that is uncalled for and unacceptable. And I'm sure David Shaw is up late at night, not getting a whole lot of sleep because of all of this. Look, they try to run the ball. Their attempts are there, but they're just not doing what they need to do in the run game. They're getting pushed back. They're stalemating at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Even when they try to get to the perimeter, their backs are getting chased down. This is feeding right into what Notre Dame does well. Number one, they do a great job of stalemating offensive lines, and number two, they do a great job of rallying to the football in space. And I just do not see a scenario where Stanford's run game is going to be in any way effective against Notre Dame's run defense.
Vince, the last 3 offensive lines we've watched Notre Dame go up against, do you watch those offensive lines and have empathy for the fan bases and maybe ask yourself, man, was I a little bit too harsh early in the season on Notre Dame's offensive line? Because I know Notre Dame's offensive line was struggling early, but this has been a season-long struggle for Stanford, Georgia Tech, and Virginia. And I can't believe someone's offensive line is this bad.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Georgia Tech was bad.
Right.
Georgia Tech was bad. But watching the film on Stanford, I was shocked. And maybe because I know what the standard of Stanford offensive lineman is, I think that's why I was shocked the most. I couldn't believe that I was watching, like you said, not being able to set the edge, not being able to set the offensive line, and not being able to go ahead and execute blockings and they're not getting to the second level at all.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. Even when they bring in, the 13 personnel and they've got everybody up on the line of scrimmage, they're not getting to the second level at all.
No. And you talked about the running backs being met on the edges. Yeah. Because the linebackers are running free.
Yep. Could not agree more. So I will ask, for the sake of the fact that we do this, but where do you put the advantage in this matchup, Shaun Davis?
I would take the Notre Dame scout team over the rushing attack of the Stanford Cardinals. I mean, it's but no, in all seriousness, Notre Dame will. I'll step out there on that ledge. Notre Dame will dominate. Yeah, Stanford and this offensive line, and if their average is 89, I'll be shocked if they get 75.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think, first of all, I think that the score is going to be lopsided, and so they're not going to even have the opportunity to run the game a whole lot. They'll try early. Notre Dame will shut it down. I mean, I guess I can talk about this now before we get to the pass game. But if folks out there think that Jack Cohn is immobile, wait till you see
Tanner McKee.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness! You want the definition of immobile? Tanner McKee's face is right there in the dictionary.
Yes.
He is so much worse as far as mobility is concerned. If we're comparing the two quarterbacks that are going to be starting the game on Saturday night, it was slow motion. It was slow motion. It was not good.
You had to sit there and double click the remote. Like, do I have it in slow motion or is this regular time? Oh man, I saw one play where it was a planned rollout.
Not a good idea.
It was a disaster.
Not a good idea.
It was a disaster. And I'm saying to myself, oh my God. I'm literally watching it saying, I know Notre Dame and their defensive lineman and Mike Elston are sitting there in the scouting room watching film, licking their chops like, oh, this is going to be fun. We can eat this weekend.
Yeah.
We're going to eat on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
We're going to get an after meal on Saturday.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, I'm going to go with the advantage to Notre Dame as well. This is not a close matchup in any way, shape, or form. I think that the tackles for loss that number is going to get higher. That number is going to get better as they move forward. I think the yards per game for Notre Dame is going to go down after this game is over. There is no chance Stanford gets to 133 yards a game or 133 yards against Notre Dame. So that number is going to go down. This is going to be – this is a huge advantage to Notre Dame.